Happy holidays from the USBGF. This is Phil Simborg, and my present to you today is a lesson on doubling when you're way ahead in the match, or particularly when you're two away. In this position, red at the score has 7 points in a match to 9. Blue has 2 points. You're way ahead. You're 2 away, 7 away. And the most common mistakes that the leader makes in matches like this is either doubling too soon or doubling too late, doubling at the wrong time. If you double too soon, you've given your opponent a major gift because he might well have taken later and you didn't lose your market, and all you've done was giving him the present of a cube that he might have taken later. Or you have missed the opportunity to double after it's a drop and maybe still get a mistake and a take from your opponent. So doubling too soon is a big mistake. You don't want to give a cube too soon when you're 2 away, or anytime you're way ahead in the match, because first of all, at 2 away, your opponent is always going to redouble immediately, and you're going to see a 4 cube in your face. And if he wins the game at 4, all of a sudden, it's a close game. You're winning 2 away, 3 away, and you're only a 60% favorite in the match. So it can be a little wrong to do that, and as a result, probably the biggest mistake that some people make when they're 2 away is they never double, and they wait until it's way too late and never have a chance at winning the match by doubling when they really have a great chance to win the match, and also a chance to see your opponent make a mistake. Well, let's take a look at this position and what you should do. Well, the first thing you need to know are the take points and gammon values, and I wouldn't worry about gammon values here at all because there's no gammons here. But the take point for your opponent here is about 23%. How do I know that? Well, you can do calculations using risk over risk plus reward over the board, or you can memorize a match equity table, as I have, for these scores. I have to admit that over 7 away, I don't have them all memorized, and I do have to do some calculations over the board, but I can usually come pretty close. And most of the time, my opponent's take point when I'm 2 away is somewhere in the range of around 22-23% at most scores, until you get down to 2 away, 3 away, 2 away, 4 away, and 2 away, 5 away. And just to prove that I have studied these, at 2 away, 3 away is take points about 25%. And 2 away, 4 away, his take point is about 18.5%. And then it goes to the trailer's take point goes closer, starts going into the 21.5 to 22% range. Okay, but at this score, this take point is about 23%. So should I double or shouldn't I? Well, you need to have some method of trying to figure out what percentage of the time blue wins. My best method in these situations is to use the Keith count. And just quickly, I'll use the Keith count. I start with the pip count of red, 77, and I look at, are there any penalty points? Yes, there's 1 penalty point for an extra checker on the 2. I'm not going to go into detail on the Keith count today because that's not what I'm teaching. I've taught this before. So there's 1 penalty point, which gives them 78. I add 1/7, which is 11, which 78 plus 11 is 89. By the way, I'll give you a tip. I'm going to put 1 finger on the 8 and 1 finger on the 9, and put the finger on the 8 closer to the 8 so I don't forget it. Now I'll remember that 89 is red's pip count, so I don't get confused when I go back and look at it again. Blue's pip count is 83. His penalties are 2, 4. Oops, I just lost my finger. Well, I have to remember 89 then, don't I? 2, 4. He has 4 points of penalty, and that's it. So he's got 87. 87, 89. Red is over by 2. Well, according to the Keith count formula, when it's a money game, over by 2 is a bear take. And then the take point in a money game is 21.5, so a bear take is about 22%. So using the Keith count, I'm estimating that blue has about 22% here. He has a small drop. Of course, I'm going to double and hope he takes, because I think he has a drop. I don't mind if he takes and redoubles when he has only about 22% winning chances, because I'm going to win the match. The 78% of the time that I win this game. Not to double here. Why would it be wrong not to double? It would be wrong because what if I don't double and I roll well, or roll reasonably well? On the next roll, I've lost my market. He's got a huge drop. And even if he doesn't calculate as well as I do, he's probably going to know to drop. Now, for those of you who always find the glass is half empty, what happens if I double? He takes, redoubles, and rolls double sixes, and now I lose it. Yes, that's going to happen sometime. There's a word for that. It's called the odds. It's backgammon. It's going to happen. But the odds are with me that he's better off dropping according to my calculations. Well, let's see how good my calculations are. By the way, I know they're right because, of course, I've checked them. So it's not that I'm such a genius. I have checked this. It's a small drop. I estimated that he had about 22%. He has 22.7%. That's still below his 23% take point. It's 23 point something take point. I round off on these because I'm not able to be quite that accurate. And I don't know too many people that are. I do know a few, though. People like Neil Kazaros and John O'Hagan and Stick and people like that can do this. But even they might be using 23. All right, let's check our Keith count. Let's see if I did this right. Analyze race formulas, Keith count over by 2, 89, 87. That's what I came up with. And it would be a take for money. And it used the same methodology and the same penalties for distribution that I used. So here we are in a pure racing situation where I've made my calculations, did a good job, and came up with the right cube action for both blue and red. And you can do this too by learning your take points, learning the theory behind it. The doubling windows are very small when you are ahead in these games. Just to show you, if you were to move red, let's say a couple pips worse, I'm sure this would be a take, and it might still be a double. This is very, very close. I would probably be right on the edge of a double. Let's see. Huh. Did I say right on the edge? 0, 0, 0, and 1 pip further back, and it would not be a double. It would be a mistake to double. Now you're giving your opponent too much. Let's take a look at this. This would be no double and a big take. So you can see how sensitive these things are to just 1 pip of movement or 2 pips of movement, and that's how brilliant Keith was to use. He stood on the shoulders, used Trice's wastage and theories and added to it and came up with a very good system that allows us to estimate percentages. Okay, well, this was a simple one in terms of the cube decision, largely because there was no contact and we don't have to worry about gammons. Let's take a position with the same score where there's gammons involved. Well, again, we still know that blue's take point is around 23%, and red here has a pretty formidable position. And the question here is, what's the cube action? Well, the first thing I do anytime I'm thinking about doubling is I use Woolsey's law. Should blue take or drop? And that's what I did in the last one too. First I came up with a Keith count to decide whether or not blue would take or drop, and when I concluded that he was dropped, then for sure I'm doubling. Woolsey's law tells me that if he's supposed to drop, I'm supposed to double, unless there's too many gammons and I'm too good to double. Well, there were no gammons in that position. Woolsey's law, by the way, also tells me that if I'm not sure if it's a take or drop, for sure it's a double. And if it's a take for sure, I might still have a double, then I have to look at market losers and other factors. Well, in this situation, if I were blue, it turns out that if my calculations are right here, blue has a take, because after he's doubled, and of course he automatically redoubles, the gammons that he loses are worth 0. There's no loss to him for gammons. As a matter of fact, he gets some benefit if he wins gammons, and believe it or not, if blue turned this game around, he would still win some gammons from red. And by the way, something I think you'll find very interesting. The gammon value for blue with this cube at 4 at this score is about 1.5. There's lots of people out there that think that the gammon value, the highest it could be, is 1.0, equal to winning and losing a game. But in this case, it's worth 1.5. As a matter of fact, I'll prove it to you. Let's put the cube on. Let's pretend that red doubles blue, or blue redoubles red to 4. You go to Analyze, Cube Information, Gammon Value, 1.49. So don't think that it only goes up to 1. You have to be very, very careful about gammon values. So this means that in this position, red's got to be a little bit careful about the cube. If he gives the cube and if blue takes and redoubles, first of all, can he win the game 23% of the time net when you include the fact that he wins some gammons at 1.5? Well, my guess was, I wasn't sure, but I think he might. And my guess was yes, he would probably take and do that. If I was losing 7-2 in a match to 9, I might be inclined to take cubes a little bit sooner than I would at other scores. And by the way, that is one of the major faults of the trailer in these scores. They often take cubes when it's a big drop because they're gambling too much, and that gives us some more insight in when we should be doubling as the leader. When we're playing human beings, we probably should be waiting until it's a drop or very, very close to a drop, because we're still going to get a take. Even if we lose our market, we're still going to get a take a lot from a lot of human beings. Most people err in that direction by taking desperate situations because they feel desperate. How would you feel when you're sitting across from someone and they're winning 7-2 in a match to 9? You're going to be a little bit desperate and take cubes. So I'm pretty sure that blue is going to take this cube. Should I double? Well, this is a very interesting situation because he has a take, but I'm still too good to double. I have too many gammons here by playing on. My gammons are worth quite a bit here. The actual gammon number value here is 0.86. So, because if I win a gammon with the cube at 1, I win the match. And I can win gammons here a lot. I don't know exactly how to estimate gammons here, but I've estimated gammons enough times to know it's very, very high. So even if you don't know what it is, very high sounds pretty good. And what could go wrong in this position? Well, that's a question I've learned not to ask too often because every time I ask it, it goes wrong. But not a lot can go wrong here for red in the next couple rolls. He can roll very, very well and make the 3-point or make the 2-point or hit 2 or even hit loose and not get hit back and still have a pretty strong game even if things go wrong. But if things go right, he can end up winning a lot of gammons here. In fact, the number of gammons that Extreme Gammon estimates at this score is about 49%. So you're too good to double, and it's a take. And that can happen a lot at scores like this. This is an extreme example. Let me show you the answer. Too good to double and a take. So even though he has a take, you can be too good to double. Normally, under normal match scores, we only think of being too good to double when our opponent has a drop. So this might open your eyes a little bit into the insights of giving the cube. If I talked about anything that you didn't completely follow or understand, great, pat yourself on the back. You just found out something from one of my favorite sayings. You don't know what you don't know. Well, now you know something you don't know. If you don't know the Keith count, if you don't know the take points at these scores, if you don't know the doubling windows and the theory of when to double, if you didn't know those gammon values, if you didn't know that you can be too good while he still has a take, and if you didn't know what to do or how to approach the cube action at these scores, now you know how to become a better backgammon player. It doesn't happen by just playing day after day. It happens by learning and studying these things. And for many, that's not fun. For those of us who find it fun, we get better. And I've gotten better because I've enjoyed learning, not because I just had some natural talent or because I put in enough hours. I enjoyed spending the time learning these things. And it's the knowledge and then learning how to apply it, which is the skill, which makes you a better player. Hope this was a fun lesson for you. I wish you happy holidays. You won't see a post from me until after Christmas. I'm going to be on my way to Florida, enjoying the sun, and but I will still do a post over the holidays at some time before New Year's. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.